Why can't I take things that aren't mine?
People can only get along together when they show care and respect for each other. Likewise, people must show care and respect for the property of others. History has shown us through its wars and invasions what chaos can be created when people take by force what isn't theirs. Everyone has personal possessions that mean a lot to them. When you take something that belongs to someone else without asking, or without paying for it, it is considered stealing, and it is wrong. Grown ups who do serious stealing end up in jail. No matter how much you want something, it is never okay to steal. Just think how bad you would feel if someone took something special that belonged to you. A lot of times you can borrow something that belongs to another person if he or she gives you permission. Take good care of the item, then, and don't forget to return it. Also be prepared to replace the item if you lose or ruin it. That is part of the deal when you borrow something. And remember, you can't expect other people to share their things with you if you don't share your things with them. When you are generous, others tend to be generous back. Sharing with one another is a great way to use and enjoy more things than you could own yourself. And everybody benefits.
Why do dogs wag their tails?
We usually think that a dog wags its tail to show happiness. But tail wagging in dogs is a little more complicated than that. A dog communicates a lot of information by the movement and position of its tail. If the dog wags its tail while holding it high and stiff, that animal feels threatened and is preparing for a fight. If the tail wags slowly and is held low, the dog is feeling insecure but friendly. But a tail that is held high and swings gracefully back and forth shows that the dog is confident, relaxed, and happy. Even the position of a non-wagging tail has a lot to say. A dog reprimanded for bad behavior often tucks its tail between its legs, showing its distress or fear.
Did you ever notice how being out in the sun seems to make more freckles appear?
Faint freckles become more noticeable when they are exposed to sunlight because skin with more melanin tans quickly.
Why shouldn't I pick my nose?
Your nose traps germs and dust and other impurities in the air before they can travel to your lungs, so it is a pretty dirty place. When you pick your nose, those germs and more get on your fingers and can be passed to others through touch. A tissue which can be quickly thrown away should be used to wipe or clean your nose. Picking your nose could also damage the many blood vessels in your nose's thin lining, causing a nosebleed. The insides of noses are not large enough for searching fingers. Most people consider it bad manners, not to mention gross, to pick your nose in front of others. Nose picking is an unhealthy practice that shows a lack of concern for others as you spread your germs around.
What is the longest river in the world?
The longest river in the world is the Nile River, located in Africa. From its source in the country of Burundi to its mouth on the Mediterranean Sea. It extends for 4,145 miles, 6,670 kilometers. But the world's second longest river, the Amazon, 4,007 miles, or 6,451 kilometers, which is located in South America, is really the world's biggest river. It has more than 1,000 tributaries, or branches, and carries far more water than the Nile.
Why do raccoons wash their food before they eat?
Raccoons have small, slender feet that they use to catch and hold onto their food. Their front feet resemble little hands. And their slender fingers can be used to remove garbage can lids and open containers and even door latches. Raccoons in the wild have often been observed swishing their food through the water of a lake or stream before eating, giving the appearance of washing their food and their hands. Raccoons kept in cages will also wet their food, dipping it into their water bowls. Scientists are not sure why raccoons exhibit this behavior. At one time they believed raccoons did not have enough saliva and needed to moisten their food before swallowing it. They now know that isn't true. Some believe raccoons might wet their food so they can mush it up a bit to make sure they've removed any sharp sticks or bones. Some have speculated that raccoons have a highly developed sense of touch, and they just like to handle their food in many different ways, putting it in water, rubbing dirt on it to figure out what it is they are eating. Sometimes raccoons have been seen washing food in dirt instead of water, which indicates that this is an instinctive behavior that may not have any purpose at all.
What is a mammal?
A mammal is an animal that belongs to the highest class of vertebrates. A vertebrate is an animal that has a backbone and a spinal cord. The other types of vertebrates are birds, reptiles, amphibians, and fish. Human beings are mammals. All female mammals give birth to live young, with the exception of the platypus duck and the spiny anteater, which reproduce by laying eggs. But regardless of how their babies are born, all female mammals nurse their young with milk, which they produce from mammary glands. A mammal is warm-blooded, which means that its body temperature is internally regulated and constant. and does not change with different surroundings. Most mammals are covered either partially or completely with hair or fur, as opposed to the scales of reptiles and fish and the feathers of birds. Mammals also share certain features in their bone structure, muscles, and even cells that separate them from other vertebrates. When we think of wild animals, farm animals, or pets, we usually think of creatures that belong to the mammal class. Chimpanzees, elephants, bears, horses, pigs, dogs and cats, and countless other land animals are all mammals. Some mammals also live in unexpected places, whales and dolphins, for example, are uniquely adapted to spend their lives in the water. They have fish-like, hairless bodies, and their limbs have been modified into flippers. But unlike their fish neighbors, these mammals have air-breathing lungs instead of water-breathing gills. Bats, the only true flying mammals, spend much of their time in the sky. Their wings are made of skin stretched from their very long fingers along the sides of their bodies to their hind legs and tails.
What's the advantage of having holes in donuts?
From a baker's point of view, it makes it easier to cook the cake more evenly. Because the heat of the hot oil can penetrate from the outside and from the inside. Without their holes, donuts would sometimes end up with uncooked middles. And if a baker tried to fry a holeless cake a little longer to get the inside done just right, the outside would often be overcooked.
How do waterfalls form?
Over time, a river flows across rocks and carves out a riverbed as it descends from its highland source. If some of these rocks are soft and quickly erode, or wear away, the river valley may slope steeply, causing the river to rush wildly downhill in rapids or even a waterfall.
What is the sun?
The sun is a star, just like the twinkling heavenly bodies we see at night, far off in the dark sky. But the sun looks different to us because our planet is quite close to it. Just 93 million miles 150 million kilometers away. The sun. A sphere or ball made of several layers of gases, gives off tremendous heat and light. It takes about 8 minutes for the sun's rays to cross space and reach Earth. It is believed that the sun's vast and continuous production of energy is due to nuclear reactions among the atomic particles of hydrogen, one of its gases. The sun is the center of our solar system, and its gravitational attraction keeps Earth and its neighboring planets in their orbits. The sun's energy is responsible for Earth's weather. Solar heating causes air to move, wind, and also causes rain by contributing to evaporation, a key step in our planet's water cycle. Without solar heat and light, plants could not grow and animal life could not survive on Earth.
What is a food chain?
Each animal in a predator-prey situation is a link in a food chain, which is a way of looking at the relationships among plants and animals that guarantee the survival of all. Every food chain begins with the sun, which provides the energy that makes plant life possible. The next link in the chain is a plant, which passes on the energy of the sun when it is eaten by the next link in the chain, a mouse, let's say, which passes energy on once again when it is eaten by the next link, a fox, perhaps, and so on. Because most plant-eating animals and most meat-eating animals have more than one food source, many scientists look at the relationships among them as a food web, rather than a food chain. A diagram showing a food web indicates the variety of foods eaten by a rabbit as well as the many different predators for whom a rabbit is prey.
What is the Big Dipper?
The Big Dipper is part of the constellation Ursa Major, or the Great Bear. It can be easily seen on a clear night in the northern hemisphere any time of the year. The 7 stars in this group resemble a large water dipper with a long handle. The Big Dipper is useful in locating the nearby Little Dipper, part of the constellation Ursa Minor, or the Little Bear. The Little Dipper, also made of 7 stars, includes the important North Star at the end of its handle.
Why do most things bought in stores have bars and numbers printed on them?
The groups of lines and numbers that you see on the packaging or labels of most items in a store are called the Universal Product Code, UPC. Widely used in the United States, the series of bars holds a coded message that allows a computer to exactly identify the name and size of each product and the company that makes it. The numbers accompanying the lines give the same information, but the bars can only be read by a machine, while the numbers can be read by store employees. When you buy an item in a store, a worker passes the item's barcode in front of a reading device. A beam of laser light scans the barcode, and its unique light and dark pattern is changed into on and off electrical signals. These signals travel to a computer, which identifies the item and sends information about it to a main store computer or to one located in the business's main office. To help keep track of the store's stock of that item, for instance, the computer is also connected to a cash register, which can print the item name and price on a receipt. UPC symbols have made it easier for retailers to keep track of merchandise and to learn what kinds of items customers want to buy. It saves purchasers time in the checkout line. Helping store employees ring up items quickly and accurately.
What is a weed?
Strictly speaking, a weed is simply a plant growing where it is not wanted. Weeds usually grow easily and spread, and they often interfere with the growth of more desirable plants. Weeds don't usually have nice features, like pretty flowers or tasty leaves. To make them more appealing to people or other animals. They are frequently hard to get rid of, growing back from the smallest bit left in the ground. People's opinions vary greatly about which plants are weeds. In the United States, for instance, most people consider dandelions weeds and spend a lot of time and effort trying to get rid of them. In France, however, they are grown as a crop, with their leaves used in salads and their roots processed to make a coffee-like drink.
How can this huge and heavy machine get off the ground in the first place? Let alone stay aloft for thousands of miles?
Airplanes function according to a complex mix of aerodynamic principles theories that explain the motion of air and the actions of bodies moving through that air. Airplanes get their power from engines. Small planes generally use piston engines, which turn propellers that push aircraft through the air in the same way that boat propellers push vessels through water. But bigger planes use jet engines, powered by burning fuel. These engines expel great amounts of air that thrust them forward and up. Airplanes are able to lift into the air and stay there because of the shape of their wings. An airplane wing is flat on the bottom and curved on the top. When a plane's engines push it forward, air divides to travel around its wings. The air that passes over the larger curved top moves faster than the air that passes under the flat bottom. The faster moving air on top becomes thinner and has lower pressure than the air below, which pushes the wing up. Uneven air pressure caused by the shape of an airplane's wings then creates a force called lift, which allows an aircraft to fly. The force of moving air is also used to steer an airplane. Steering is done through a system of movable flaps working much like boat rudders that are located on the plane's wings and tail. When set at an angle, they push at flowing air that pushes back, turning or tilting an airplane. To descend, for instance, a pilot lowers a plane's tail flaps, causing airflow to direct its nose downward. Turning requires changing the direction of wing flaps and the tail rudder. An airplane must be in constant motion, its wings slicing through rushing air to create lift in order to stay up. Moving air is also required to steer it. In other words, a plane cannot fly without the power of its engines thrusting it through the air. In order to get enough lift to rise into the air on takeoff, an airplane has to travel along the ground first at great speed.
Why do clothes need to be washed?
If you want to look clean and smell nice, your clothes must be washed frequently. Most clothing is made of tiny threads that are woven together. As you go about your day, dirt and odors get trapped in the weave of your clothes and can only be removed by washing. Clothes must be jiggled and swished around quite a bit in water, as is done in a washing machine, to best remove dirt and odors from their tiny hiding places. Detergent is added to water to help the process. It can break up oily dirt into smaller pieces that can be whisked away. And it can surround other dirt particles and pull them away from fabric. Washing machines are run by electric motors that turn large blades inside a big drum or tub that is filled with water. The blade turns back and forth, pushing soapy water and clothes around. A front-loading machine has no blades, but the drum turns and tumbles the clothes to get them clean. A washing machine automatically gets rid of dirty water and rinses the clean clothes before wringing water out of them, making them nearly dry. Before washing machines, people had to use muscle power and a great deal of time to loosen dirt from the weave of clothes. They did this by stamping on wet clothes with their feet, or beating them against rocks, or rubbing them on bumpy washboards to get them clean.
Are all snakes poisonous?
Snakes are among the most frightening animals to humans, and because of this fear, many people would sooner try to destroy these animals than understand their benefits to the environment. Snakes are beneficial in that they eat pest insects and rodents, helping to control the populations of animals that can be nuisances to humans. Only about 1/10 of all snakes are venomous. And not all of the venomous snakes are dangerous, or even deadly, to humans. Most snakes are completely harmless. And poisonous snakes do not hunt people. They bite when they are handled, stepped on, or otherwise disturbed. Their venom is most often used on their prey, not on people. There are about 20 species of poisonous snakes in the United States. Mostly rattlesnakes, cottonmouths, also called water moccasins, coral snakes, and copperheads. Many venomous snakes, with coral snakes as one exception, are categorized as pit vipers because they have pits on their heads between their eyes and nostrils. These pits help the snakes detect heat, making it easier for them to locate prey. Most venomous snake bites are treatable and don't result in any lasting problems. The deaths that do occur from snake venom frequently happen because the person was unable to get to a hospital soon enough. If a snake bite occurs, try to get to a hospital as soon as possible. In the meantime, a bandage can be wrapped lightly around the area just above the bite. And the limb where the bite occurred should be moved as little as possible.
Why are some kids better students than others?
Some children do better in school than others for many reasons. All kids have different talents and abilities, and some of these just show up better in school. Some children may be naturally better at reading and writing and working with numbers, and at storing and using information. Most schoolwork requires these skills. So kids who are strong in these areas are likely to be better students. Other children, whose special talents may lie in music or art or sports, may not do quite as well. Still, most kids have enough ability to learn the basic skills taught in schools. Things that they will need to know to get along well in the world once they graduate. But remember that schoolwork does take effort. You can't learn if you don't work at it. A student can almost always become better by caring more and trying harder, even if it requires asking for special help. Good students usually come from families that consider education important, and they put a lot of time and effort into their studies.
How old is the universe?
No one knows for sure. For a long time, scientists believed that the Big Bang that formed the universe occurred 15 to 20 billion years ago. This estimate was based on mathematical calculations using the current rate of expansion of the universe. But recent information collected by the Hubble Space Telescope indicates that the universe may be newer, only 8 billion years old.
What should I do if someone asks for my name when I'm online?
The internet is an amazing place where you can find information on all kinds of things. You can chat with friends, email long-distance pen pals, and read what other people are saying about things you're interested in. But just as you shouldn't talk to strangers when in the outside world, you should also use caution when chatting in the cyber world. Unfortunately, there are people surfing the web who present a threat to kids. They may be adults posing as another kid or somehow lying to you about who they are and what they want. To be safe, never give anyone you don't know personal information about yourself online, including your name, address, or phone number. And never agree to meet a person you've chatted with online, even if that person seems friendly and harmless. Let your parents know if a stranger is sending you email or instant messages. It's also important to ask your parents first before registering at a website. Many sites offer special benefits if you register as a member, which involves providing your name, email address, and sometimes home address, phone number, and other information. While some sites protect your privacy and only use that information to send you things you want, others sell your information to advertisers or organizations. As a result of registering at a website, your family may end up getting lots of unwanted email, regular mail, and phone calls from companies trying to sell you things. And even if you find a great deal online for something you really want, never give out your parents' credit card information unless they say it's okay.
What can you do to stay safe when you are outside or away from home?
Here are some basic guidelines: play with at least one other kid and in familiar places. Don't go near a car with a stranger in it, even if the person says he or she has a gift for you, or needs your help to find a lost pet, or is asking for directions. Think about it this way: if an adult really needed help, he or she would ask another adult, not a kid. Don't accept a ride home from school or anywhere from someone you don't know, even if that person says your parents asked him or her to pick you up, and even if that person knows your name. Basically, try to avoid situations where you are alone with an adult you don't know unless it is a person your parents have arranged for you to meet with, like a doctor or a counselor. If a stranger approaches you, tell that person to please not speak to you because you don't know him or her. If the stranger continues toward you, start yelling and run away. If you need help, your best bet is to go to a public place like a store, a library, or especially a police station. Afterward, be sure to tell your parents about your experience with the stranger.
How is a pony different from a horse?
A pony is exactly like any other horse. The only difference is its size. Officially, a pony is any small horse that measures under 14.2 hands. About 57 inches or 145 centimeters, high at the withers, the ridge between the shoulder bones. The hand is the standard unit used to measure a horse's height, it equals 4 inches. Most ponies, however, are only around 26 inches, 65 centimeters, high. Beginning about 5,000 years ago, people began to tame or domesticate wild horses. Over time, they bred the animals to serve certain purposes. This selective breeding was done by mating male and female horses with special characteristics like size or speed that would then appear in their offspring. Some horses were bred to be large and strong. These were used to carry knights in heavy armor or as work horses to pull heavy carts or farm equipment. Some horses were bred to be swift and were used for hunting or racing. Ponies were mostly bred in the British Isles, where pasture land was scarce. Smaller horses have smaller appetites and don't require as much land for grazing. Despite their small size, ponies were bred to be sturdy and hard-working. They were sometimes used to pull carts filled with ore. The natural materials from which metals are made, through the small tunnels in mines. They were also bred to have gentle natures. This feature, along with their size, make them ideal for children to ride.
Which animal is the deadliest?
The poison dart frog, found in the rainforests of the South American country Colombia, produces one of the most toxic poisons in the animal kingdom. Many amphibians, the animal group to which frogs belong, produce toxins that make their skin taste bad, so predators won't want to eat them. Some frogs, usually the brightly colored ones, produce poisonous secretions that can harm or even kill their enemies. The toxin made by the poison dart frog, if it enters an animal's bloodstream, can paralyze and even kill. There are many different types of these frogs, the most poisonous being a bright yellow frog whose toxin can kill a human if it gets into the person's mouth or into an open wound. The toxin can even work its way through unbroken skin. As little as 1 drop of this frog's poison can cause the heart to stop beating. Certain tribes in Colombia use the poison dart frog's secretions, obtained without killing the frogs, to coat their darts and arrows, hence the name given to the frog.
How are countries formed?
Often it is a group of people with something in common whose members identify with one another that makes up a country. It may be a shared race, religion, language, history, or culture that makes people feel that they belong together as a nation. Because of its uniqueness, the group feels that it should govern itself as an independent country. This feeling of shared identity and loyalty to the group is frequently behind the rise of nations. Some countries are so large and have such complicated histories of war and conquest that they are home to many different groups of people who have their own separate beliefs, languages, and customs. The differences between these groups sometimes make it difficult for them to get along. A nation is weakened by such groups if they put their own interests ahead of those of their country. But a population of many different groups can also enrich a country with diverse ideas and cultures if a spirit of acceptance and cooperation exists.
How can a microwave oven cook food so fast?
Unlike other ovens, which cook food with heat waves made from burning gas or electric currents, microwave ovens use special bands of electromagnetic energy called microwaves, similar to light waves, to cook food. While heat waves gradually work their way inside food to cook it, microwaves can travel right through food in an instant. In a microwave oven, a device called a magnetron produces a beam of microwaves that pass through a spinning fan, which sends the waves bouncing in all directions. As they travel through food, their energy is absorbed by molecules of water. The water molecules vibrate at the same high speed as the microwaves. 2.45 billion times per second, and rub against other molecules. All this movement and friction causes a great deal of heat, cooking the food inside and out. Microwaved food is cooked through a process similar to steaming, which explains why it doesn't turn brown. But some microwave ovens have traditional heating elements to make food look more appealing, giving it the outer color that we expect in cooked food. Certain materials allow microwaves to pass through, meaning they aren't heated by the waves, while other materials absorb the waves and still others reflect them, or bounce them back. For this reason, it is important to be careful about the containers and coverings we use in microwave ovens. Microwaves pass through glass and plastic wrap, for example, which are safe to use, as are paper products and most sturdy plastics. But metal containers and coverings like aluminum foil are reflective. Such surfaces keep food from absorbing microwaves, allowing the waves to bounce around so much inside an oven that it may break.
How is it decided where a country will be?
Sometimes the size and shape of countries are dictated by the geography of the land around them. Mountain ranges, large bodies of water, deserts, and other features often provide natural boundaries that separate one country from another. The location of borders are often agreed upon by the countries that share them and recognized by other nations in the world. Border and territory disputes can be the source of conflict and even war between countries.
How do you know when to keep a secret and when to tell?
A good rule to follow: if a secret makes you feel bad, scared, or confused, share it with an adult you trust.
Why do I need to sleep?
During sleep, your body systems don't work as hard as when you're awake. Your skeletal muscles relax and need less oxygen, so your breathing and heartbeat can slow down. Other functions like digestion slow down, too. During one stage of sleep, when you dream, your muscles are even temporarily paralyzed, as your body uses less energy to run itself. It can use more energy for other important things, like growth and repair. In fact, a body chemical known as growth hormone, which is responsible for how big you will become, is produced mostly during sleep. Scientists have found that children who do not get proper sleep over long periods of time do not grow nearly as much as they should. So even though you don't feel like going to bed sometimes, do it for your body's sake. It will thank you in the morning, when you awake rested, repaired, and even a little bit bigger.
Why does high humidity make a day feel warmer?
Just as the wind affects how we feel and how our bodies react to cold temperatures. Humidity, or moisture in the air, affects how we feel and react to warm temperatures. High humidity slows down the evaporation of perspiration, or sweat, which our bodies produce to cool off. So 2 days with the same outdoor temperature will seem quite different if the humidities vary. With the high humidity day feeling warmer. The heat index is a chart developed to show how different levels of humidity make various temperatures feel to us, and how our bodies will react. The heat index is important to know because serious health conditions like heat exhaustion and heat stroke can occur on very hot, muggy days if care is not taken.
Why does the moon change shape?
The moon never really changes shape. But the part of the moon that reflects sunlight, which is the only part of the moon we see, varies throughout the month. It takes the moon about 30 days to make a complete orbit around Earth. During that time its position relative to the Sun and Earth changes constantly. These positions are called phases of the moon. The part of the moon that faces us can look like a disk, full moon, a half moon, a slim crescent, or no moon at all, new moon.
How do dog years compare with human years?
It has long been thought that 1 dog year equals 7 human years. But many people believe another formula gives a more accurate picture. At age 1 a dog has the equivalent of 15 human years. At age 2 it has the equivalent of 24. After that, each additional year counts as 4 years. The average lifespan of a dog is 12 years, which, according to that formula, equals 64 human years. Large breeds tend to have shorter lives than this, and small breeds tend to live longer. The record is 20 years.
How does a lie detector work?
Lie detectors, or polygraphs, have been featured in countless police dramas on television and in the movies. And they are usually portrayed as foolproof methods of determining whether a person accused of a crime is lying or telling the truth. A person taking a polygraph is hooked up to several sensors that measure things like heart rate, blood pressure, breathing rate, and perspiration, or sweat. The results measured by the sensors are recorded as jagged lines on a piece of paper that moves through the polygraph machine. The tester begins by asking the subject questions he or she knows the answers to, like the subject's name, the day of the week, or the color of an article of clothing. From the answers to these questions the tester can see what the subject's normal heart and breathing rates look like. Then the tester begins to ask the serious questions about the crime that was committed, for example. The idea is that if a person is lying, his or her heart will beat faster and he or she will sweat more. And these changes will be recorded as higher peaks in the jagged lines. Many people believe that an experienced reader of polygraph tests can accurately tell if the person being tested has lied. Others insist that such tests are highly inaccurate and easy to beat for those who know how.
How do the things that I eat and drink keep from going down my windpipe?
When you eat and drink, chewed food and liquids travel toward the back of your throat. Muscles there automatically close the passageway to your nose, so that your food and drink doesn't take a wrong turn. Though some people can force liquid through these muscles, making it spout from their noses. More muscles make the epiglottis, a flap at the top of your windpipe, or trachea, automatically close so that food can't get into your lungs. Your food and drink then have a clear pathway down your esophagus, a muscular tube that runs from your throat to your stomach. Sometimes, a trickle of liquid, from a drink, or from saliva in your mouth, passes into your windpipe before the epiglottis can close it. When that happens, you feel like you're choking, and you cough and cough to expel the fluid from your lungs. It is said that what you swallowed went down the wrong pipe, and that's exactly what happened. Some liquid went down your windpipe instead of your food pipe. When food gets stuck in the trachea, though, more serious choking can occur. That food can partially or fully block the windpipe, leading to breathing problems. If the windpipe is partially blocked, a person may still be able to take in enough air to cough out, which will usually remove the piece of food. Remember, as scary and violent as coughing is, it is a good sign during choking, indicating the trachea is not completely blocked. When a person cannot cough, though, and holds his or her neck, that individual needs help. The Heimlich maneuver, named after the doctor who invented it, is a method of dislodging a piece of food from a choker's throat by reaching your arms around the person's body from behind and squeezing your fists up into his or her abdomen. The practice has saved many lives.
When I cut or scrape myself, why do I get a scab?
When you get a cut or a scratch, you break blood vessels in, and sometimes below, your skin. Blood begins to leak out of them then, and platelets, small ovals of special matter in the blood, start to gather and stick together at the area of broken skin. Special chemicals also cause blood to thicken there, forming webs that trap blood cells and keep them from escaping. As more blood cells are trapped, a clot forms. As it hardens, it becomes a scab. A shield that keeps outside germs from entering the damaged skin. Beneath the scab, the body can repair the tissues. The scab shrinks over time as the skin around it heals, and it falls off when all repair work is done.
Which sharks pose a danger to people?
There are more than 350 shark species, and only a few of them have been known to attack people. Contrary to the habits of the bloodthirsty shark featured in the Jaws movies. Scientists don't believe that sharks purposefully hunt people. In most cases where sharks have attacked humans, they were probably protecting their territory or mistaking the person for a seal or another type of shark prey. Unprovoked shark attacks do happen, but they are pretty rare. The International Shark Attack File at the University of Florida recorded fewer than 80 such attacks throughout the world in 2000, 10 of those resulted in death. Around 30 different kinds of sharks have been known to attack people. With the white shark, the bull shark, and the tiger shark being the most common aggressors.
How can blind people read books?
Many blind people read specially printed books using the Braille system. Developed by a French boy named Louis Braille in 1824. Braille, who became blind when he was 3 years old, was only 15 when he modified a code used by the military for reading in the dark. Braille's new system involved raised dots that stood for letters, numbers, punctuation symbols, and words. There are 63 characters in the Braille code, each one a unique combination of 1 to 6 raised dots. Once blind people have learned the Braille alphabet, they can read Braille books by lightly touching the book's pages with their fingers. Some people who become blind later in life, after having learned to read, prefer to use a system that incorporates the alphabet they are familiar with rather than learning Braille. A device called the optacon can be used with regular books. It enlarges and raises each letter, which the blind person can then feel with her fingers and read. Another way for blind people to discover the content of a book is through talking books, which are recordings of entire books, novels, school books, and so on that can be played back on cassette or compact disc players. Optical scanners are another way to translate printed materials into sounds. These computers scan a page from a book or magazine, and a computer-generated voice reads the material aloud.
Why does a flamingo stand on one leg?
Scientists don't know for sure why flamingos stand on one leg at a time. Sometimes for several hours, but they have several theories. Some people believe that flamingos lift up one leg so they are less visible to their prey. Standing on one leg, they may resemble a tree to the aquatic creatures they are hunting. During cooler weather, bringing one leg up close to the body can help conserve heat. Some have suggested that standing first on one leg and then the other helps promote the circulation of blood down flamingos' long, skinny legs. Flamingos can even sleep while standing on one leg, and some scientists think there is a connection between their own leg position and the way their brains function during sleep. One half of their bodies and brains can sleep while the other half, including the leg they stand on, remains somewhat alert.
Why do some people use wheelchairs?
A person may use a wheelchair for many different reasons. Many people in wheelchairs suffer from partial or complete paralysis, which is the loss of control over the movement of some part of the body. Paralysis can result from injury to the nervous system, including the brain or spinal cord, or damage to the muscles that control movement. It can also be caused by certain diseases that affect the nervous system, including multiple sclerosis. Some people use a wheelchair not because they are paralyzed but because an injury or disease like arthritis or scoliosis has made walking extremely painful or difficult. Many older people, suffering from a stroke, a broken hip, or perhaps simply the weakness and frailty that sometimes accompany old age, must use a wheelchair to get around. There are many different kinds of wheelchairs. From the manual types that are propelled by moving railings attached to the wheels, to electric wheelchairs that are operated by hand controls that resemble the joysticks used in video games. Some people prefer a motorized cart, or scooter, with either 3 or 4 wheels. These carts are generally smaller and easier to maneuver than typical wheelchairs. While wheelchairs have the potential to give disabled people much more freedom of movement, that freedom would be useless without things like ramps at building entrances and wheelchair-accessible bathrooms. Thanks to the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, a law passed in 1990, public buildings and transportation, like buses, must have facilities to accommodate people in wheelchairs. The ADA also makes it illegal for employers to discriminate against disabled people. Young people with disabilities are protected by the Education for All Handicapped Children Act of 1975, which specifies that all children, regardless of disability, have the right to a free and accessible education.
Why do certain smells have such powerful links to our memories?
Memory is important when it comes to identifying a smell. We are not born knowing what different scents mean. We have to learn to associate the smell of freshly baked cookies with something we like to eat, or to link the smell of burning wood with a nearby fire. But the link between memory and smell goes beyond identifying what that smell is sometimes. A scent can bring back a memory very powerfully, even a memory that was buried deeply. Scientists aren't sure why this happens, but they do know that the scent organs are connected to the limbic system. the part of the brain that controls memory and emotions. Some experts believe that the memories recalled by scent, as opposed to those recalled by seeing a familiar face or hearing music, for example, seem stronger because they are linked to emotions. Studies have shown that people who are exposed to a certain scent while feeling especially happy or nervous will notice a return of those feelings when they smell that scent at a later date. Related studies have shown that when people learn something studying for an exam, for instance while smelling a specific aroma, they can remember more of what they learned when they smell that same aroma later.
What should I do if another kid is being a bully?
If you're on a playground and you see a kid hurting or making fun of another kid, your first impulse might be to turn around and pretend you didn't see it. But imagine how that bullied kid is feeling. And you'll know that the right thing to do is to try to put a stop to it. Sometimes, if the bully is a bigger kid and is being rough, the best thing to do is to find a teacher or another adult and tell that person what's going on. Or, if the situation doesn't feel like it could threaten your personal safety, the best thing you can do is to stand up for the kid being bullied. Kids who make fun of others usually expect to get a laugh from their friends. And if you show the bully that his or her teasing isn't funny and that you support the person being teased, it could end the teasing right there. Lots of kids have been picked on by a bully, for many different reasons. If you've been the target of a bully, you know it can be very scary and upsetting to be teased, hit, or threatened. Sometimes it helps to simply ignore what the bully is saying. Most bullies do what they do to get a reaction from those they tease. And if they get no reaction at all, it's a lot less fun for them. It usually helps to have friends around, too. A kid walking alone is more vulnerable than a group of kids, and if you are bullied when your friends are with you, it might help you feel brave enough to stand up to the bully. Even if you don't feel that confident, sometimes just acting confident can go a long way. If you hold your head high and tell a bully to stop calling you names, you may just surprise that bully into silence. One approach to avoid is responding to bullying with violence. It will probably only make matters worse. Even though it may feel awkward or embarrassing, it might help to tell your parents or a teacher what you're going through. At the very least, they can make you feel better by explaining why bullies behave the way they do, and by reassuring you that what the bully says about you has nothing to do with who you really are. And at the most, adults can help keep you safe if you're being threatened.
Do groups of stars form pictures in the sky?
Since ancient times, people have noticed certain bright stars in the sky that are arranged in recognizable groupings. Often a grouping reminded these ancient people of the shape of an animal or an object. Or the stars' shapes reminded them of one of their gods. Ancient Greek astronomers gave these groupings called constellations many of the names that we still use today. Some examples are Leo the lion, Corona the crown, and Orion, a character from Greek mythology. Altogether, scientists have identified 88 constellations in the sky. Though their visibility varies with the time of the year and the location on Earth of the observer.
How do snakes move without legs?
Snakes have no arms or legs, yet they can move fairly swiftly through grass, sand, and, in some cases, water, and they can easily climb trees. Snakes can achieve such amazing mobility thanks to well-developed muscles and a row of scales, called ventral scales, on the undersides of their bodies. They usually rely on the ground's rough surface to provide resistance. Something for them to push against that isn't slippery. Most snakes move by coiling their bodies into a series of S-shaped loops, with each loop pushing against the ground. Some large snakes, like boas, move in a way similar to a caterpillar, inching along the ground. Snakes that live in the desert have a harder time getting the traction necessary for movement. These snakes, called sidewinders, move in a sideways motion that allows them to slither along on the ever-shifting sandy surface. While the absence of limbs might seem like a handicap, snakes have certain advantages thanks to their unique bodies. Not only can they move quickly and easily over and through a variety of landscapes, they can also move in near silence, making it easy for them to sneak up on their prey. And their narrow, flexible bodies allow them to fit into small crevices and holes where they can wait for unsuspecting animals to come along, or where they can hide from predators.
What is a cocoon?
A cocoon is an envelope-like structure made of silk that is spun by an immature insect or larva. It is a protective covering in which the larva passes through its inactive pupa stage before it becomes an adult insect. These cocoons are often attached to branches or twigs. Caterpillars are the larvae that eventually change, or metamorphose, into butterflies and moths. Only a few types of butterfly caterpillars spin cocoons. A butterfly's cocoon is called a chrysalis, while the caterpillars of many moths do. The cocoon of the silkworm, caterpillar of the silk moth, is collected and processed and woven into the beautiful cloth we know as silk.
Why can't babies do anything?
Try to imagine what it is like to be born. 1 minute you are floating in a warm, dark, quiet world where there is nothing to see, not much to feel. And where you don't even have to eat or breathe on your own, it's all done for you. With nutrition and oxygen reaching you through a special tube called an umbilical cord that connects you to your mother. Then all at once you arrive in an unknown world, as strange as any planet in outer space. Suddenly, air touches your skin and feels warm or cold. Loud sounds, and light, and strange-looking creatures and objects surround you. You have to breathe at once in order to survive. You experience hunger for the first time and will soon have to learn how to eat, too. It takes a long time for a newborn to learn about his or her new world. Human babies are born with instincts and reflexes that help them survive, just like other baby animals. But they have no knowledge or experience about the complex world of people into which they arrive. So don't be impatient with babies, they have everything to learn. Making the learning process twice as hard is the fact that human babies are not fully developed when they are born. In nature, less complex life forms like insects, for instance, can move about and get their own food as soon as they are hatched. But the young of higher forms of life and humans are at the top take many years before they are physically mature. People grow until they are between the ages of 18 and 20 years old, with body changes occurring very quickly in the early years. And because the human brain is so complex, mental growth continues throughout a lifetime. During much of their lives, then, children must be fed, cared for, and taught by adults. So when newborns start out, their bodies aren't even ready for the demands of their new world. They can't see very well at first, especially things that are far away. They don't know how to use their arms and legs much. For a while they can't even grasp things with their hands. The digestive systems of newborns are immature, too, and babies don't have teeth. Unable to eat solid foods, they depend on breast milk or baby formula for all their nutrition. And sometimes they can't even keep that in their stomachs, spitting up a lot. Most frustrating of all for everyone, including the baby, is the fact that babies are unable to talk at first. And the only way they can communicate their feelings or needs is to cry.
Why can I sometimes feel my heart beating?
You usually only notice your heart beating when it is working faster than usual. When you are resting, your heart usually beats about 85 times per minute, slower in adults. But when you are active, your muscles need more oxygen and nutrients. It's your heart's job to increase the amount of blood that flows through your body, delivering what your muscles need by pumping faster. After a real workout, your heart can be beating twice as fast. And it may feel like it's pounding in your chest. When you become frightened or excited, a similar thing occurs. The hormone adrenaline, which prepares the body for emergency action, is released into your blood from glands. along with your brain and nervous system. Hormones, chemical messengers that circulate in the blood, help control body processes. Adrenaline tells your heart to pump faster in an instant fight or flight response that has helped people survive dangers from the beginning of time. Your heart makes sure your muscles are ready to fight or run from the thing that has frightened or excited you.
A better question would be, how do plants make their own food?
Green plants get nourishment through a chemical process called photosynthesis, which uses sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water to make simple sugars. Those simple sugars are then changed into starches, proteins, or fats, which provide a plant with all the energy it needs to perform life processes and to grow. Generally, sunlight, along with carbon dioxide, enters through the surface of a plant's leaves. The sunlight and carbon dioxide travel to special food-making cells, palisade, deeper in the leaves. Each of these cells contain a green substance called chlorophyll, which gives plants their green color that traps light energy, allowing food making to take place. Also located in the middle layer of leaves are special cells that make up a plant's transportation systems. Tube-like bundles of cells called xylem tissue carry water and minerals throughout a plant, from its roots to its outermost leaves. Phloem cells, on the other hand, transport the plant's food supply sugar, dissolved in water from its manufacturing site in leaves, to all other cells. The plant food that we buy in stores is simply a mixture of minerals that plants need to grow well. These include nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Usually a plant is able to get these things from the soil in which it grows, drawing them up with water through its roots. But gardeners, farmers, and other plant growers add to this natural mineral supply so plants can thrive.